Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Those who are finished with their sunnah request to please come closer, inshallah. And those who are in the lobby are requested to come closer, come inside the masjid, inshallah. We're about to start the program. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. قال الله تعالى في القرآن العظيم بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers, sisters, elders and ulama, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As Mufti Minhaj already mentioned, we'd like to welcome those new faces who have joined us here for our annual winter conference of Darus Salam. And without further ado, first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Akef. I am a 7th year student here in Darus Salam Seminary, and inshallah I'll be graduating the end of this year, and I'll be your host for the rest of the evening, inshallah. Without further ado, I was told to give an introduction, but inshallah Shaykh Akef, he has a lot prepared for this topic, so we are going to start right away, inshallah. I just wanted to introduce Shaykh Akef. He will be speaking about Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayh, and the topic is Filling the Void, the Spiritual Journey of Imam Al-Ghazali. And a brief bio of Shaykh Akef Habbal. Shaykh Akef Habbal was born in Montreal, Canada. He graduated from a 6-year program at Madrasa Khusrufiya in Aleppo, Syria. Thereafter, he earned his bachelor's degree in Islamic Studies from the University of Damascus, where he then continued to study master's level courses in theological and religious studies. Shaykh Akef then went on to study various topics, including tafsir, fiqh, nahu and usul under various scholars in Aleppo. So Shaykh Akef, mashallah, has over 10 years just in seeking knowledge, let alone spreading it and teaching it as well. Upon returning to North America, Shaykh Akef began teaching Arabic and Islamic studies at various institutions. He currently serves as an Arabic instructor in Darus Salam Academy, and we are blessed to have learned under him as well. Alhamdulillah, Shaykh Akef taught us Arabic literature. And you know, Shaykh Akef, mashallah, he's honestly one of the most well-rounded individuals. Forget ulama, individuals. Mashallah, he has knowledge about any topic you can think of, whether religious or secular sciences. And it's only befitting that he will be talking about Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, because Imam Ghazali was a master of all the sciences, such an extent that his book, his magnum opus, is called Ihya'u Ulumuddin, the revival of the religious sciences. So inshallah, Shaykh Akef will be shedding light on Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi and his illustrious life. So we request all the brothers and sisters to please pay close attention. Jazakullahu Khairun.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. تبرأت من حولي وقوتي واعتصمت بحولك وقوتك. الإمام الغزالي رحمه الله. I have 35 minutes only. Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah, to learn more about him, we have to go to Iran. Not now, you know what I mean, but rather about almost 1,000 years from now. If you go to what is nowadays Iran, was called Khurasan at that time. Khurasan was an ancient region, an ancient area where it included actually parts of Iran, most of Iran nowadays, and parts of Afghanistan from the west, and even parts of Turkmenistan in the north. So all of that region was called Khurasan. So anyways, there was a city called Tus, Now that city was in Khurasan, yani in nowadays Iran. And in that city, Imam Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali rahimahullah was born. Now his name is Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad. Yeah. Three Muhammads in a row. That's true. Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad. The interesting thing that his dad, the father of Muhammad, Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali rahimahullah, was just an ordinary man. Yani it was said that he was Ghazal, yani a weaver. Yani he had a shop. He's just a simple man. But when he's done with his work, he would go to the majalis of the ulama to see what they have to say. Now, every time he's sitting in the majlis, he say, man, I'm hopeless. I can't learn ilm. I'm too old for this stuff. But then he would make dua while he's there. He say, oh Allah, give me a son who's faqih. So he sits in a session of fiqh and he say, oh Ya Allah, give me son who's faqih. Okay. Then he goes to the ulama who have wa'adh, who have like, to make the heart tender. You listen to them, your heart becomes tender. Those are called ulama al-wa'adh. And then he say, oh Allah, give me a son who is a wa'idh. So he goes to the faqih, he asks for his son faqih. He goes to the wa'idh, yani the ones who give mawidha, who remind people of the akhirah. Then he say, oh Allah, give me a son that is wa'idh. And then Allah give him a son who has both. See? So Allah's Kareem, that's why, that's a lesson. If you're asking the Kareem, you can ask for a lot, inshallah. And then not just that, Allah gave him another son that we don't know much about because how famous Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali rahimahullah was, but he had another brother who was a scholar too and a wa'idh as well. So anyways, the father kind of wanted them to be ulama, but he couldn't live long enough to see him becoming ulama. He started he knew he's going to die when they were still young. So he had money, he gave his money, he took it, and he gave it to a friend of his. And that friend of his happened to be a Sufi guy. He said, take this money and use it, spend this money to teach my kids. Teach them ilm. And the man died. And this man, he started taking care of the two kids of Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali, the two kids of Muhammad ibn Muhammad, who is the father of Imam Al-Ghazali. And he started taking care of them till all of the money ran out. And he said, listen, I have no more money. I have no money myself. I'm a Sufi, I'm just Zahid. And the money of your dad is done. So either be Zahid like me, and that's it for you, or you can go to the school, to the madrasa. You don't have to pay anything. They will take care of you. They will feed you. They'll give you housing and you will learn. And he said, you know what? I'm going to encourage you to take option 2 because I see you have some good qualities. So he put him in a school. So he started learning. First, he learned in his own city, Tus. Then he moved, he traveled to another city called Jurjan. Jurjan is another city that is in Iran nowadays, and it was a famous city that many ulama came from. Okay. One of them like Abdul Qahir al-Jurjani, which is like the Shaykh of Balagha. Like if you're talking about Arabic eloquency, he's like the Shaykh who wrote, and he's a big guy in that field. Then he came back to Tus, so he's kind of going in the vicinity. Then he decided he wants to go for the real stuff. He wants to go to Naysabur. Naysabur, what is that? Again, another city. Naysabur is another city in nowadays Iran. You see, because it's all Khurasan, same area. And in Naysabur, there was a good school. It's called the Madrasa Nizamiyah. And by the way, while he was on his trips to the madrasa and learning, he learned a very, very valuable lesson from a bandit, from a robber, highway robber. So he was in a caravan, and some people, all having their faces covered, took the swords. Yallah, give me everything you guys have. Wallah, Give me. Don't argue. Allah, swords, weapons, what can you do? So khalas, he said, okay, take everything. And then they snatched from him his bag. And his bag had his notebook where he's writing off the ilm he's getting. And then he said, oh, please, where's your boss? And they say, he's there. And then he went to the boss. He said, please, please take everything. Just give me back my bag. And he said, why? What is important about that bag? He said, it has all my ilm. He said, it has what? He said, it has my ilm. He said, your ilm means you don't have any of it in your head. You need that book to know the ilm. Here, take. He threw it in his face. He said, what a loser. You should know this stuff. Why do you have to have it on paper? Then he said, man, that was a close one. So he went back, and for 3 years he memorized everything he had in books. Halas, he said, I want to keep it here. You learn their lesson. So once he went to Naysabur. So Naysabur was one of the Madaris al-Nizamiyya. Now, what is the meaning of Madrasa Nizamiyya? Madrasa Nizamiyya was a madrasa built by a prime minister, very great prime minister. You know how, مثلا, example, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu was one of the greatest khalifas? Like Khalid ibn al-Walid radiyallahu anhu, one of the greatest leaders. And this man, his name Nizam al-Mulk. That's what's his name, Nizam al-Mulk. He is the person who built a series of schools. And this man was a genius prime minister. He's genius in running the government and running business, as they say. So he built a series of schools, one of them in Naysabur. The most important two are one in Naysabur and one in Baghdad. But he had also ones in Herat, which is in Afghanistan nowadays, one in Mosul, and many other cities as well. So those Madrasa Nizamiyya, they had very strong program. First of all, you have to be a Shafi'i to teach there. I'm telling you up front. Because that was kind of, Nizam al-Mulk was a Shafi'i. So that was kind of the madhab that was common there in the Madrasa Nizamiyya. And in that madrasa, it happened to have one of the greatest scholars of all time. His name is Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni. Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni. This alim, Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni, he is one of the top fuqaha of Shafi'iyya of that time. And he was genius in Islamic thought and Islamic aqeedah. He wrote books. And in usul al-fiqh, principles of Islamic law. He was very good. So Imam Al-Ghazali, he said, okay, I'm going to stick to this alim. Where else do I need to go? This is the cream of the crop. So he stayed there learning from him till Al-Juwayni passed away. When he passed away, it was like, I forgot actually to tell you which year he was born. Oh, that should have been said. He was born year 450 Hijri. 450. Now, when Imam al-Juwayni died, it was like around 87, I think, 487. Or let me see, maybe, anyways, 87 or 78, maybe 78, I'm not sure. Something close to that. So anyways, when Imam al-Juwayni died, by that time, Imam Al-Ghazali has become a big alim in that area, from that school, Nizamiyya. And then he had got married and settled and all of that. And then when after the Imam Al-Juwayni, rahimahullah, died, then people in Baghdad, the Nizam al-Mulk, the wazir, the minister, and a lot of people started hearing of his name. Then he was invited to go to Baghdad. And when he went to Baghdad, he sat in the court of the wazir. You know, so the Nizam al-Mulk, he had a court, you know, people, he has guests, he has ulama. You know, before, that's how they do. Before, all of the good khalifas, all of the good ministers, they actually have ulama sitting in their meetings. You know, like nowadays you have a lot of people, they have losers sitting with them. You know what I mean? There they have like actual ulama sitting there benefiting from it. So yani your IQ is going up instead of down. You know what I mean? So anyways, you have a group of ulama, and one of them was the Imam Al-Ghazali. And then in front of him, they would argue, they will debate. They will say, this is that, this is that. And Imam Al-Ghazali was like a lawnmower, going through everyone and refuting opinions and doing that. And say, man, who's this guy? He was full of ilm. He absorbed it, and he was a very intelligent person other than having ilm. Because you can have ilm but be limited. No, he had ilm, but he was a very intelligent person as well. So when all of that happened, he started making munavarat. Munavarat yani debates. Yalla, show me what do you have? And he started debating people, you know, like public debates. And everyone said, man, you're good. Khalas, you're good. And then Nizam al-Mulk said, hey, I want you to teach in the Madrasa al-Nizamiyya in Baghdad. Now I want you to be a teacher there. He said, okay, yalla. And he started teaching there. Usul al-Fiqh, Aqidah, all of this stuff. And he started teaching, and his students are getting more and more and more, till he had 400 turbans in his dars. I'm not talking about regular awam. I'm talking about turbans. Turbans yani ulama. You got 400 alim are attending his class. Regular people forget it. But I'm just saying, those are the ulama, that's his caliber. And he was like teaching for 4 years, and everything's going, and he's writing books and all of that. And suddenly something weird happened. Listen to this. You know, always in life, when you reach your peak, in whatever, in money, in fame, and whatever, that kind of blinds you from realities. Khalas. You got it all. Now you start feeding on others who are like you to kind of, you know, take out competition. But Imam Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, at certain point when he was teaching, something sparked in his head. He said, wait a minute. All of the ilm I could have learned, I had already learned. I've learned all of the ulum. I've said to the great mashayikh, all of that. But why isn't it that causing me to have a stronger connection with Allah? Wait a minute. That might sound oxymoron. How can you learn more ilm and you don't have connection with Allah? So you see, he tackled that problem. So he said, and I reflected on myself. Now, where am I getting this talk? Where am I getting these things that he was going through? He actually talked about it. He talked about it in one of his books. He had a book that is very unique book. It's very unique for that time. That book is called Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal, which means the savior from misguidance. Now, in that book, he did something that I don't know any other alim of the deen did at that time. It is something you would see more nowadays, which is what is called autobiography. You know, people talk about their life and what they went through and their experiences. Before, people will talk about the ilm only, like pure ilm. But he was telling us about his life, what he went through, what was going in his head. What are the experiences and the thoughts that he was thinking of? And he wrote about it in a very courageous way and in a very frank and open way. Listen what he said. He said, at certain point, I noticed there's something wrong in my life. I looked at my life. What is the best thing am I doing? I'm teaching the ilm of the deen. Then he said, but wait a minute. Why I am teaching the ilm of the deen? And he said, to be truthful, I looked into myself and I found out that I was teaching just for popularity. Can you imagine that courageous statement here? He said, I felt that my teaching was just for show off. For ish, mental muscle flexes. You know what I mean? And that, I'm in trouble. I'm in deep trouble. And then he noticed, because while he was in Baghdad, you have high caliber ulama from all walks of life. And he noticed that there were 4 different walks of life living at that time. And he said, wait a minute, I have a problem here. Why am I not feeling of the existence of Allah? So it's not enough just to believe that Allah exists. You need to feel that. This is what he was lacking. He said, there's a problem. How are we going to achieve that? So what he did, he studied all of the 4 common trends at that time. First of all, he studied the philosophers, the Greek philosophers. Greek philosophy a long time ago was basically a salad of everything. Basically, because everything you want to know answer about is all stashed in philosophy. That's why math was part of philosophy, physics, everything was part of philosophy. So he said, wait a minute, could philosophy be the answer to having a connection with Allah? Then he said, but wait, philosophers have a problem. They think that through logical reasoning, they can know what's in the next life and what's in the ghaib. But that can't be done. Forget it. So he studied the philosophy in such a depth, and then, that doesn't work. Then he studied the mutakallimin. This was another trend. Mutakallimin, yani basically the scholars of Islamic aqidah, and finding a proof, a logical proof that God exists and all of that. And then he said, but that's not going to make your connection stronger with Allah. That's just going to find proofs for what you already believe. Let's try with the Batiniyah. That was a third trend. Now the Batiniyah were basically, in English, they translate them as mysticals. So those Batiniyah, basically, they believe in a secret knowledge that you need to get from some Imam. Yani it's a very extreme type of Shi'ism, that type of stuff. So he studied that, and no. And he kind of wrote the problems of that. Then, at the end, the 4th trend, the Sufiyah. Then he started studying the people of Tasawwuf and all of that. Then also he found that there are a lot of problems with the Mutasawwifa as well. Like, you know, they have a lot of, fake people on each side. There's like those, one time one of our teachers, he's telling us about one of those fake mashayikh of Tasawwuf, who basically, one of his students say, and one of his karamas, the karamat, right? One of the karamas that he used to do zina in the road, ya Latif. Like he was invisible. That's like one of his karamat. Can you imagine this crazy stuff? But you will hear stuff like that. He said, of his karamat that he used to do zina in the road and no one would see him. Yeah. You had. And you had people taking hashish to make connection with Allah. You have crazy stuff going on. So he saw a lot of crazy stuff going on, and he said, wait, that's not going to work. So he decided to stop teaching. Now, first he said, no, it's going to be all right. Let's continue with this. And then every day he said, I need to kind of increase my ibadah. I need to do khalwa. My mind is too busy. I can't do this now. And then every time, he's telling this, he said, every time I want to do this, the shaitan will tell me, come on, man. You're serving the deen, you're doing such a great job. Why would you, after reaching this high status, why would you want to quit now? And then he kept saying, okay, then in the night or in the morning, he changes his mind, he goes back. Then he reached to a degree that he couldn't talk anymore. Like he goes to give the dars, he can't talk. Allah, he said, now is the time. So anyways, he said, sorry, I can't do this anymore. So he left Baghdad And where did he go? He went to Damascus in Syria. And he went to the Masjid Al-Umawi in Damascus, and he did i'tikaf. He stopped learning ilm, he stopped teaching, he stopped everything. And he said, I need to work on myself. I have a problem here. I have a problem here. And he was only focused on salah and dhikr and contemplation on the world and on himself and on all of that. And he stayed like that for a few years. And then he went to Qudus and did i'tikaf in Masjid al-Sakhra, you know, the Dome of the Rock? He did i'tikaf there. And he started writing his book, Ihya Ulum al-Din, the famous book. Remember this book? Ihya Ulum al-Din, very famous book. Which basically, what does he talk about? In Ihya Ulum al-Din, he talks about how worship of Allah has a ruh to it. Worshipping Allah needs a soul, needs a heart connection. And he feels that people at his time were just looking at worship as just empty things you do, rituals. But he's saying, but where's the spirituality of it? Where's the spirituality connection? So that's why he talked about spirituality of the ibadat, and he talked about the spirituality of people and how to train yourself and change yourself to the better and all of that. So after he started that, then he went back to Damascus. Then he went for Hajj in Mecca. Then to Medina. And he stayed in a period of contemplation and reflection and fixing himself and khalwa and dhikr for 11 years. Wait a minute. 11 years. Why 11 years? I don't know. You're going to ask him. But 11 years, so he was doing a lot of job there. And while he was in that experience, he was writing Ihya Ulumuddin. So he was talking from the perspective of someone who's experiencing things. And in that book, and in the other book, Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal, he kind of leaned more towards the idea that the true people of the Tasawwuf are the people who have hal, who whatever they learn or know, it actually affects them in real life. It's not just talk. So that was kind of got him really into that. So after that, Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah, after teaching there and after going on that long trip, he went back to Baghdad. Now when he went back to Baghdad, he didn't go back to teach, just he went for a visit. And at that time, Nizam al-Mulk, that genius wazir or minister, was killed. Was killed by who? Was killed by a group, they're called the Ismailiyin. Or they're called the Hashashin. I'm not joking. Now, Hashashin means those who take hashish. Or maybe some other reason they were called that thing. But it's kind of interesting that from that group, that name, the word assassin came. The word assassin came from those group because those group, they had very strong assassin armies. And they had a stronghold in a very remote fort, and they were experts in assassination. So that's how they assassinated Nizam al-Mulk. Because the founder of that group was a competition with Nizam al-Mulk. Anyways, long story, we don't want to get into that. So after that, his son came. Who's the son? Fakhr al-Mulk. The son of Nizam al-Mulk, he was also a very good minister. And then Fakhr al-Mulk, he said, listen, Abu Hamid, please, you need to get back to teaching now. He said, okay. Because khalas, now, after his experience, he's entered a new dimension in ilm and in vision and in wisdom. No problem. So he taught for 2 years in the Madrasa Nizamiya in Naysabur, the same place that he learned initially. Then also, Fakhr al-Mulk was assassinated. And then when he was assassinated, khalas, what is he going to do? He said, I have to leave now. So he went back to his city that he came from originally, Tus. And in that city, he built like a school, small school, where people come and learn. People do khalwa, like a place for tasawwuf and for ilm. And he started getting people coming, and he started teaching people and all of that. And he dedicated that part of his life till he passed away. He stayed in his city, Tus, teaching his own people in the city and enlightening them on what he has found in all of his experience and his trips and all of that. And rahimahullah, he passed away year 505 after Hijrah. So that means he only lived 55 years. 55 years. When he actually graduated from the Madrasa al-Nizami in Naysabur, he was 28. So you can do the math. So you got 2 and 20, 70, 27, right? 27, good math inshallah. 27, so in 27 years, which half of it, he was just ibadah and khalwa and tafakkur. And then you got the other half, roughly, the other half that he was kind of teaching. So Imam Al-Ghazali is a very interesting figure because of many reasons. Now you might say, okay, we got the life of him, but like, what are the special things? Now, first of all, one of the special things is that he wrote a book. Now, Jazakallahu Khairun. He wrote a book called Tahafut al-Falasifa. He wrote a book refuting all of the philosophers. And he talked about a very important point that we can learn from it nowadays. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali rahimahullah, he said, if I want to be able to refute anything or to prove anything wrong, I have to study it as good as the people who know it. And not just that, I need to go beyond to discover their errors. So if I only know what they know, it's not enough. So he studied philosophy and he wrote a book called Maqasid al-Falasifa, which he told the philosopher, he explained what they said. And said, man, this guy is good. He's one of us. And he said, wrong answer, but you guys are wrong because of 1, 2, 3, 4. But he's doing it like an expert. You see, like sometimes, I'll tell you this. This is a problem we have nowadays. Like let's say, someone who's in the field of deen or field of ilm. Like they'll hear about a theory of evolution. And they'll say, yeah, we were monkeys. What if? Do you think anyone's going to listen to that? Now maybe here, like we're sitting here, we can have a good laugh and khalas, we move on. But you see, if you want to be able to refute that or to find problems in evolution, then you have to know what you're talking about. Because you might be able to get anything past amongst the awam, but when it comes amongst people in that field, you have to be knowing what you're talking about. So that's the first thing. He wrote that book, Maqasid al-Falasifa. They said, man, he's one of us. Then he wrote Tahafut al-Falasifa, means the deconstruction of philosophy. And he mentioned the problems with philosophy. And then he said, listen. And then he mentioned a very important point. First, as I said, that you need to know what you're talking about before you refute anything. And then another very important point that people nowadays can benefit from, which is just because an important scientist or a genius in physics or in chemistry, just because that person is not a Muslim or not a believer in the true religion, doesn't mean that the true religion is incorrect. Because you might say, oh, these genius people, they should know what's going on in this world. But he showed you that you might have some people who are genius in physics, but they're like babies in deen. You know what I mean? So And then another thing he also said, just because someone has deen shouldn't also refute ilm. So you shouldn't say, oh, I don't learn ilm because this ilm is connected to figures that do not believe in Allah. Nor you should say, I don't believe in Allah because the great figures of ilm do not believe in Allah. That's a very good point, because nowadays, amongst the wave of atheism, you see people say, oh, this great scholar, oh, he didn't believe in God. He knew a lot of physics, he knew a lot of ilm. If there's God, he would have found him. Really, what type of argument is that? You know what I mean? So he proved that, and then he went group after group, and then group after group, and he showed the problems with all of these groups. So that's the first importance, that he studied those trends better than the people of it, and he showed the problems of it. Second, he was very transparent and unusually clear about what he was going through. And that was very amazing, because he shared his experience. We can benefit from that. And third, you can hardly find anyone like Ghazali who has a deep understanding of the nafs, the laws of nafs, and the laws of spirituality. He was one of the best people who ever wrote about the topic of laws of spirituality and how to go about the journey of making a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll end here. I think time is up. Let me see. Yeah, exactly on time, inshallah. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.